So, today we are going to talk about the French and Indian War. This was a war between France and Great Britain, not a war between France and Native Americans, like the name suggests. It did have Native Americans fighting on both sides to support the French, and then on the other side to support the British. So, there are going to be a couple of things that I talk about today. One is just a brief overview of what happens. Then we're going to jump to why there was a war in the first place. Then what happens? And then what was a result of the war? Pretty simple. Keep it straightforward. So, the French and Indian War was just part of an even bigger war called the Seven Years' War, and it was fought all over the world on 5 continents. The only two not part of it were Antarctica and Australia. So, leading up to the war, both French and the British claimed overlapping lands, which led to tension between the two. So, this was a war over territory. It was also a war over trade and resources. The French were looking for more resources to trade and to make money, and the British were looking to expand their territory, but find new resources. So, then the fourth thing is it's seen as a lead up to the American Revolution. The end result, spoiler alert, was the British taxing the colonists to pay off the debts from the war. The colonists had no say in this, and it leads to tension between the colonists and the British government. So, why was there a war in the first place? So, France and Britain wanted to expand the amount of territory they each had, and that included territory in North America. So in North America, their focus was on the frontier. So that is land that is west of the Appalachian Mountains where Native American tribes lived, but neither France nor Great Britain had colonized it yet. So the Ohio Territory was not well defined. And so they both kind of started claiming land in the Ohio Territory. So the French began building forts in the region that is in and around the Ohio Territory to strengthen their claim to the region. So the Ohio Territory wasn't just in what we call the state of Ohio, it was Ohio, parts of Indiana, parts of Kentucky, that whole region right there. So the French Indian War is where we actually first see for George Washington. He is called in to lead some of the British forces against the French. It's not the best fought battle or war, but the British do end up coming out victorious. Okay, so 6 things really come out of this war. So, one, it was fought over to expand territory. It was fought because there were no boundaries, and the French and the British, like, I want this land, and then the British, I want this land. So this was to establish boundaries. Another thing was that it got more resources. So the more land you had, the more resources were available. Therefore, both France and Great Britain wanted more resources. Then the French built forts, right? Like I said, like in the last slide, the British see this as a threat and they attack the French forts. And then you have George Washington, and he leads the British forces. Not very well. He's only 21, but the British do end up winning. And as a result of their win, they gain all territory east of the Mississippi River. So the territory that's between the Appalachian Mountains, that natural boundary of the colonies, and the Mississippi River. Everything in between there is now technically British, even though Native Americans still live there. Then, as a result of all of this victory, there was the cost to pay. How are they going to pay for this war? Taxes. The British government needs to pay for it, so they tax the colonists, which we will talk about in a second. Okay, so as I said, they needed to pay the cost of the war. So the fourth topic was what was the result of the war? This was the very first time the colonies united together to fight against a common enemy, aka the French in this case. So, because the war lasted a long time, over 10 years, the British government needs to pay for this very expensive war. It decided that they would tax the colonists because it protected the interests of the colonies. They were doing them a favor by fighting for this territory and protecting them against the French and protecting them against the Native American tribes who supported the French. So, in their eyes, these taxes were cool, it's fine. The colonists didn't like it because they didn't have a say. They didn't have a vote on whether or not they wanted to allow these taxes or not. But also, they didn't have say in the British government. They didn't have that representation. So it really ticked them off. Um, so this is the part where it is seen as a lead up to the American Revolution. This is the first big problem that the colonies are seeing that, okay, the British government, yeah, they protected us or whatever, but they're taxing us without our consent. So, red flag here, okay? Speaking of flags, this Join or Die cartoon was created by Benjamin Franklin as a symbol to show the colonies that were not united during the French and Indian War. It was meant as a way to get the colonies to come together and fight against their common enemy, the French. It will later be used during the American Revolution as a symbol of coming together to fight the British government. All right, that's it for today. So, next time, we will talk about the taxes that were put on the colonists, how the colonists respond to those taxes. Hint, it's not good. And then the unrest that will lead to the American Revolution. Yes, we are talking about the American Revolution in the next week, and it's going to be awesome. See you guys later.